Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and in today's video, we're here to talk about Apocalypse. Now, I know I'm probably about 2 days late at this point, but I've been away and things like that, and I really want to kind of get my take and give you guys my take on what I think about is going on with Apocalypse, what needs to be done, and why there is obviously a fair bit of disappointment in the community with regards to this character. And it really should come to us no surprise, because for those of us who have spent, a year long to try and unlock this big character, that it feels like it's kind of missed the mark, and it is really disappointing. So I want to go over some of the reference points that we've seen in, for example, previous strike times, where they've talked about Apocalypse and where he's going to be viable and how, meta he's going to be. And then I want to take a look at some footage that I've been shared with some other content creators as well, just to kind of drive home that point that where we expected him to be great in, I'm not going to say good in, I want to say great in, that it just really didn't hit home. So if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. And I want to start off by sharing this video from Dogbergs. Now, some of you guys may have known that me and Dogbergs did a video together last weekend. We talked about Apocalypse, we talked about what his impact was going to be, and what we expected of his release. And it's funny, because everything that we talked about is true and happening right now. So this was Dogbergs' very short arena clip from Friday, after he got him unlocked. He found a team of Apocalypse 4 Horsemen on his arena defense, and he shared this with me. I mean, and I did share this on my Discord channel as well in an announcement, because, I've been kind of busy lately, and I still kind of am. But I want to share this with you guys anyways, in case you didn't see this, because it's very quick, but honestly, it drives home the point. So you guys know that the current arena meta right now is Spider-Man 2099, Weaver, the Eternals, and now a lot of people are using Kang the Conqueror because of his speed bar manipulation. You don't actually need him for this, but it's funny. So let's watch this together.
Kang, Weaver, 99, Eternals versus Apocalypse and the 4 Horsemen. I'm gonna have to quit this one out, though, because I don't want to get stuck at number 1.
So there's the 4 Horsemen here, and then as you can see, it does exactly what we talked about on the video.
Look at that! We flipped the immunity.
So the fact that Apocalypse has immunity, but he doesn't have Safeguard, means that he is susceptible to, that flipping of the immunity. And it really doesn't matter, though, because, unless you have immunity and Safeguard together, it's not going to make much of a difference.
How about that? I wonder who predicted this. He got the counterattack, but he doesn't get shit. Oh, look, you can stun Apocalypse.
And of course, when you stun and trauma Apocalypse, he can't shake it off. And that was a huge hit. It was like 870k. Now, I don't even remember if that was a crit. Was that a crit? I don't know if it was. It wasn't even a crit. It was like his base damage. It just did so much damage, right? Oh. And this is a big team. They're like pretty much maxed out. So just to be clear about that.
Look, you can stun up.
It is a baby Apocalypse, but there have been other videos, allegedly by Pathfinder Gaming and others who have. I just, because people in my Discord channel told me that there were, basically the same thing, but against a big Apocalypse, and honestly, it made no difference, and they were still getting taken out.
Apocalypse! How about that? I wonder who predicted that.
Okay, cue the insane evil guy laughter. But we talked about this. We talked about this exact same thing happening, and it didn't really matter, right? And so this is the team that I'm currently, more or less, that I'm using in my arena meta right now. Pretty much. I mean, I've been playing around with Apocalypse a little bit, but the same 4 characters apply. We have the Eternals, we have Spider-Man 2099, and we have Spider-Weaver. And so nothing's really changed. I actually moved up from 35 to 23. I don't know. I don't think anyone sorry, excuse me. I don't think anyone is using Apocalypse on the defense because I think it's actually bad, and I think it's worse than whatever we currently have. So the fact that the arena meta has not changed one bit, I think, is disappointing. But I'd love to know and hear from you guys in the comments down below, because do you want that? I think a lot of us expected an arena meta shift, right? Like, I honestly think that that's what we expected to happen, but it didn't. And the reason why I expected, and I want to kind of pivot to this video over here, which is from the strike time from a month ago. The final Apocalypse Saga, Strike Time 23. Because in this, they did talk about, on several occasions, and even well before this, that he was supposed to be the Arena Apex meta team, him and the Four Horsemen, right? And so I want to kind of just jump ahead a little bit. This is an interview with Byron Melsax. He's been on before, and specifically at the 7-minute mark over here when they start talking about him.
For Apocalypse, if he gets stun on his turn, he'll clear stun. If he has heal block as well,
so
he'll clear that as well, and then he'll heal himself for a bunch. So actually stunning Apocalypse, unless you've got a trauma follow-up.
Stunning Apocalypse, unless you have a trauma follow-up, like Spider Weaver. And, you know, it's funny because he looks to the side a little bit. It's like as if he wasn't quite sure about the characters that were in the game.
It actually does more, well, it does him more good than harm.
Yeah.
Good thing that, you know, we have a really OP character in the game by the name of Spider Weaver who can apply both stun and trauma, which means that Apocalypse is essentially fucked.
We're kind of off to a bit of an...
So, and then the next point here at about 11 minutes or so in here, when they talk about, you know, use against Stormhold.
Full Horseman team.
So they show a clip here of Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen against Stormhold. Stormhold hasn't been meta in the arena for before quite some time, actually. And so I feel that this is really tone deaf here in that they don't understand and they don't play their own game because they don't know what the existing meta is currently. And that's just astonishing, really.
Morgan Le Fay's going to go first.
They talk about the turn bar and the turn order and who's going to go first.
Part of that is her passive, where she gets bonus speed bar on start for every mystic enemy that she has. Mystic characters are still a big part of the meta. After her is Red Hulk, who will usually come up with his special. If you're going up against a Dormammu character, it's very important who you target because he removes revive once. Usually within those turns, the enemy team will have a few characters also take a turn. And it's at that point that Apocalypse has been balanced to take his first turn.
So Apocalypse is balanced for him to take his first turn when going up against Darkhold or Stormhold. I feel like this really misses the mark, especially against, like, you know, every other meta team that we have, like, in the last 4 to 6 months.
He has the ability to open up with his special, which...
He doesn't have time to do opening up to any special if you're fighting against Tangled Web and Eternals, as we saw previously. So I feel like this was a character, and this has been talked about a lot on Discord and on Reddit, that this is a character that's been designed a year ago without any consideration for the upcoming characters or even a relook as to how this character is going to play out based on the current meta, which has been, at least in the arena meta anyways, that is Spider Weaver and 2099 together. And so I want to jump ahead to the next section, around here, where they talk about where we expect to use Apocalypse.
He's certainly going to shine brightest in arena. But
you heard that. Let's rewind. A couple seconds.
modes in particular that you think that this where he's going to shine?
He's certainly going to shine brightest in arena, but
he's going to certainly shine brightest in arena, and that suggests to me that he should be usable in... Now, he doesn't specify that we're talking about Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen. That is the gameplay footage that we saw earlier, but there is some ambiguity here that he doesn't flat out say that, yes, you should be using Apocalypse and the Four Horsemen in the arena. But I think that was the preconception that all of us had going into this for the last year, is that you would slowly build up each of the horsemen and you would unlock Apocalypse and you would use them all together, because that's the point of all of their character kits, right? Is to be used together. Like, I have to be very clear about that one, and I have to just jump back really quick to the game, because every time that we've been unlocking these empowered modes, these empowered, where are my horsemen? The level 6 passives, because all of this was intended to apply extra bonuses to Apocalypse and the rest of the team and the Horseman team. So Apocalypse and all Horsemen gain 100% resistance and so on. Not everything here actually carries over to Apocalypse, but usually, at least in the past, of that there is some stuff in there that does talk about that. And where's my other characters? There's Red Hulk. So I forget what he does. Does he focus? For 60% focus to Apocalypse and all Horseman allies, and you get the gist, right? Every Horseman has a passive carryover to Apocalypse and the rest of the Horsemen. So to me, this was just telling me that this was designed largely, I would say, for Apocalypse and most of the Horsemen. I say most of the Horsemen because maybe there was some leeway that you could add in characters like now Kang the Conqueror, because he's so effing OP, and with his adjustments that he's really strong on offense. But I'm not sure if the developers actually took this in mind when they created it. Frankly, the people who were behind Masters of Evil could have been completely different than the people who were behind Apocalypse. So who really knows at this point? So,
But because of his plug-and-play nature, he should really succeed anywhere.
He should succeed everywhere. Or anywhere, rather. And I want to be very clear, he's not a bad character. And I should have said this in the beginning. He's not a bad character. But he's not the great character that we were promised for a year-long culmination. And I think that where he is going to, without even looking at the rest, like, he's going to shine brightest in Crucible offense. I think that's where we're going to see the most use out of him. But that's really disappointing for some character that we have built 24 characters, including Apocalypse, to get there. Gear Tier 16, Blue 4, and then all of the other characters that we needed for the Scourge events, if you consider that as well. That there was a lot of characters involved to getting them unlocked. And I'm not even sure if Apocalypse is a top 5 character. Honestly, he might clip the top 10 best characters, but he's not going to clip the top 5, for sure. And I think that Dormammu, when he came out of the gate, was a much better drag-and-drop character, plug-and-play character, than Apocalypse is being right now, because I thought that that Dormammu brought more to the table overall as a plug-and-play character than I'm seeing from Apocalypse. And I know it's early days, but I have to say that I'm still pretty disappointed.
He'll be very powerful in Dark Dimension.
He'll be very powerful in Dark Dimension. What kind of world are they on? So does this mean that there's going to be a Dark Dimension 7? Or Dark Dimension 6, I guess? Or what, because Apocalypse was technically Dark Dimension 6 in a weird way. Are we getting a Dark Dimension 6 or 7? Why are you mentioning this? Because people who have beaten Dark Dimension 5 and have Dormammu don't need Apocalypse for Dark Dimension. So, and you can't, like, the order that you would do this, you typically would do Dark Dimension 5, I would imagine, before Apocalypse. So why is this even being brought up? Like, that's just crazy talk.
And your Mutant Raids team.
Mutant Raid team. Okay, so that's an interesting one. I've heard that this has already been debunked, that people have tried to use him in Doom Raid 3 or in any version of that, and replacing Psylocke with him, and it actually has gone worse. That's from what I understand. But let me know in the comments down below if you had a different experience.
And certainly in Real-Time Arena.
Real-Time Arena, and then he does a laughing shrug because nobody fucking plays that game mode. I'm sorry, but that was one of the worst fumbles in Marvel Strike Force history. There's been a lot of them, but Real-Time Arena really takes the cake, and he makes this funny jab that we should be using Apocalypse in Real-Time Arena.
At least until he gets banned.
At least until he gets banned. Honestly. So what did we spend all of this time for if he is not the main arena meta team? Notice that he doesn't mention War, and he doesn't mention Crucible. He does say everything, that she should be viable everywhere, and I think that he will be. But realistically, War offense and Crucible offense is not what I signed up for when it came to Apocalypse. I signed up for an arena meta team. Flat out.
That's different people make that decision, not me.
So I'm going to end that part there, and I'm going to jump back into the game, okay? And so I want to ask you guys a very simple question. What did you expect out of Apocalypse? What do you want out of Apocalypse? That's the better question. So just to kind of recap, and kind of some history recap, previous arena metas prior to Darkhold and this stuff here was teams like Infinity Watch. And Infinity Watch had a meta that was, for a lot of people, felt really dry. It was Infinity Watch versus Infinity Watch, a mirror match, and there was no substitutions. You had to have the entire team Otherwise, you couldn't do anything. So it was Infinity Watch versus Infinity Watch. These matches took anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And I'll be honest, like, there were some times where I was, like, down to the wire within the last 30 seconds because the matches took so long, and you were beating a wall, essentially, on both sides. And there was chances that you could lose, but largely was down to RNG and getting crits on you, you know, wrong at the wrong time and things like that. And for a lot of people, that wasn't fun. And before that, it was Black Order, which again was at the beginning. It was largely a mirror match as well. You wanted to go second so that Empowered Thanos would flip your character and that you would flip it back. That was the meta. So I think a lot of people were happy that we moved away from a mirror match meta. But at the same time now is that we expected a change in the arena meta. As I see things right now, there is absolutely no change in the arena meta. And that's largely because of this guy right here, Spider-Man 2099. Because he goes before Apocalypse. And so he flips all that stuff. He lands the debuffs on everyone on the team, which allows Spider-Weaver to go to then stun Apocalypse and put trauma, and he can't shake it off. And then everything gets fucked up from there. The Eternals come back into power, and they mess them up. And then it's good game. Right? Because there's no Dormammu, so therefore there's no revives. And so they get crushed really, really quickly. That being said, you don't really want to put Dormammu on the defense either. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to put both of them on the team. And it wasn't designed in that way. Because there was countless times, if you go back and watch that Strike Time actually, that Byron talks about how he didn't want Dormammu to be stuck on the same team permanently with Apocalypse. So what does that mean? And it means that Apocalypse needs a buff. He needs change. And I appreciate all of the content creators out there, some in particular, that have gone out of their way to suggest what Apocalypse needs to be better, to counter some of the problems that we're having. But I have to say, this is not our job or responsibility. It is Scopely and Boundless's job and responsibility to have a character that we spent a year long to get that is not getting completely effed up by the existing characters in the game, and so easily so. That they didn't think about the characters in their own game meta to understand how it was going to work properly. And that's what's baffling to me. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys want? Do you guys want an unbeatable god for Apocalypse? Are you guys happy that there's no change in the arena meta whatsoever? I want to hear from people both who have unlocked Apocalypse and those who have not. Because for me personally, I at least expected him to be able to beat characters like Spider-Weaver in 2099. Or at least have you forced to use some sort of different hybrid variation than the arena meta that we've been using for the last, I don't know, 6 months? Well, you know, since 2099 and Weaver came out. So that was probably around October time. I feel that we should have had enough time to see a shift in the arena meta, but currently we do not, and it's highly disappointing. So I'm going to leave things off there, everyone, and let me know in the comments down below what you think. What were your expectations, and what do you expect going forward? I really hope that they decide to give an announcement on this later on in this week, because there's a lot of people unhappy for a whole host of reasons, including some of the things that I've talked about recently, and I don't think that they can just let this slide. So that's the end of this video, everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So until then, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.